What if Soul Society arc Ichigo had to replace Sung Jin-Woo on Jeju Island? Could he defeat the Ant King, who would later be known as Beru? And provided he's accompanied by his usual team consisting of Orihime, Chad, and Uryu, how much assistance could they lend to the hunters? When the raid on Jeju Island commenced, Sung Jin-Woo was out performing his daily quests, and since he was quite confident in the skills of the hunters, in this new storyline a new gate opens in Sung Jin-Woo's location, and the system alerts him to enter and complete a new quest. In other words, he'll be away from the battlefield. Towards the end of the Soul Society arc, as Ichigo Kurosaki and friends are making their way back from the Soul Society, an unnatural interference between Kisuke's technology and the Bankai Precipice world creates a shockwave which sends them to a different dimension. The powerful mana or magical forces, being released from Jeju Island, act as a sort of homing beacon, and Ichigo's group is pulled onto the island itself. If you find this sequence of events haphazard, let's just say Batman did it or Hashirama cells. After they land on the island, Yoroichi notes that this is in fact a different dimension. And at this point, Beru has already massacred the Japanese hunters outside, including the likes of Goto Ryuji. And so Orihime's first course of action is to use Soten Kishin to reject Goto Ryuji's death. Having done so, they'll be able to obtain intel about the world and the current status of Jeju Island. Yoruichi and Ichigo would continue towards the mountain. Their objective is to help the hunters who are inside the nest against Beru and the remaining ants. Uryu lost his Quincy powers after the battle against Mairi Kurotsuchi. Therefore, he'll remain outside with Orihime, Chad, and Goto Ryuji. Their mission is to heal the other hunters, since Orihime's rejection can bring back the dead even from portions of their body. To show gratitude, Goto Ryuji and his hunters will remain afterwards to deal with the ants circling the island, which will go against their original plan to leave the Korean S-rank hunters to suffer. So how exactly will this play out? With Flash Step, Yoruichi and Ichigo will get to the ant's nest rather quickly. By this time, all of the S-rank hunters would be injured thanks to Beru's power, which would have also allowed him to locate and exterminate Min Byung-gu, their healer, and they would all be frozen in fear thanks to Beru's aura. Upon seeing Ichigo, Beru acknowledges his presence. "Are you the king of the humans?" A question which provokes a smirk from a mischievous being inside Ichigo's inner world. While Yoruichi administers first aid Kaido to Chahei-in, who was in critical condition in both the anime and the webtoons, Ichigo must defeat Beru.
My son, for all of us!
During Beru's introduction in the anime, a mere scream could release enough mana to shake Jeju Island. Goto Ryuji was presented as exceptional among the S-rank hunters, but Beru could defeat him in mere moments. Goto Ryuji was on his way to obtaining national level status, although he wasn't quite on the level of someone like Liu Zhigang, the caliber of hunter who is said to rival a nuclear warhead, which typically generate a few kilotons to several megatons worth of TNT damage, which can typically wipe out an entire town or city. In the webtoons, they're described as possessing power comparable to the combined force of a country's military, which could be interpreted as being able to generate power compared to thousands of nukes, which pushes them further into the city to potentially mountain level. This was a level that Goto Ryuji was supposed to be approaching before he got no-diffed by Beru. Therefore, Beru's power is more so town level to potentially mountain level. Regarding speed, Beru believed that this was potentially his greatest asset, as he can quite literally condense his form to achieve the ultimate movement, and he takes great pride in his incredible speed. Beru was said to be comparable to, if not stronger than, Baran, the Demon King who, despite lacking his primordial darkness, was still quite competent. And Baran was a caliber of opponent who could use lightning speed attacks, which likely places Beru into that massively hypersonic speed range, assuming Beru's offensive ability would rival or surpass Baran's. After consuming the S-rank hunters, Beru gained the power to use ice and regeneration powers, having consumed a healer. And thanks to his ability to consume entities and add their properties to himself, he gained the ability to use a paralyzing poison. But how does all of this fare against Ichigo Kurosaki? When the Reishukaku slammed into the Shakunmaku of the Seirete at the moment of Ichigo's invasion, the collision shook the entirety of the Seirete. The Seirete is a country which seems to contain even mountain ranges and cities, and just walking from one gate to another takes 10 days, when there are 4 gates in total at each cardinal point. Earthquake feats of this magnitude are typically in the mountain to island levels. To produce this feat, despite Ichigo having assistance, they were all in their base forms. In addition to being exceptional among his friends in terms of raw energy, Ichigo would grow immensely stronger to the point where he could rival captains, and can magnify the Reiatsu released from his hands through 2 different stages to release the Getsuga Tensho, and then all of this power becomes multiplied with a Bankai. There's also a feat where Shikai Toshiro condenses water over 7 miles, which when you plug in the values is a mountain level feat, which is consistent with the way Toshiro's Zanpakuto works. There's also the Sokyoku, which Aizen described as being capable of wiping out the Seirete, which would be the power to destroy an entire country, and the fact that the scaffold behind the Shinigami should be able to withstand a similar amount of energy. And of course, Ichigo destroyed the scaffold itself with his Zanpakuto. If you doubt the Sokyoku's power, we can use it as a high end of country level, with the more general feats being from mountain to island level, as Ichigo could disperse Byakuya's Shikai with his own, and clash with the captain's Bankai despite his noble status with exceptional spiritual pressure. Therefore, Ichigo Kurosaki would scale to and beyond Beru's high-end interpretation, making him stronger. But what about speed? It is the nature of a Quincy to observe spiritual events in microseconds. And again, this is something Uryu attributes to his nature as a Quincy and not his growth. With the likes of Mayuri Kurotsuchi, it was less physically accomplished than the likes of Byakuya, being able to casually speed blitz Uryu's perception. And Bankai Ichigo easily blitzed Byakuya's perception and reaction, before cutting down all of the petals from Byakuya's Senbon Zakura, despite the captain multiplying the speed of his Bankai by 2 times. This would push Ichigo Kurosaki beyond Beru's speed as well. If Beru starts by testing his physical strength against Ichigo as he did with Sung Jin-Woo, by literally slamming his fist into Ichigo, the Substitute Soul Reaper's Reiatsu would fend off the attack. It should also be noted that Ichigo possesses the physical strength to smash through Zanpakuto's Shikai, and martial arts skill to deal with multiple lieutenants simultaneously. And having fought against Kisuke Urahara for 5 days and 5 nights gave Ichigo immense physical strength. Even the colossal gatekeepers of the Seirete, who can crush buildings by merely walking, could be dispatched by blows from Jidanbo, the same giant whom even with his full strength could not make Ichigo budge. The latter even destroyed his weapons and toppled him over. Therefore, Ichigo would have Beru cornered in striking power, owing to the physical strength behind his Zanpakuto. We can also factor the spiritual or astral aspects of Ichigo's attacks, or the fact that he can counter entities which are directly designed to vaporize souls, even in a more casual sense. Even if he switched to a competition of speed, Ichigo would still outpace him. And Ichigo also possesses similar high-speed slashes, which should remind you of Sung Jin-Woo's mutilation, as the Substitute Soul Reaper dispersed millions of Senbon Zakura blades. Furthermore, even if Beru manages to intoxicate Ichigo with poison, which would be quite difficult considering their speed and power gap, even ignoring Reiatsu resistance, we saw what happened when Ichigo got paralyzed in his battle against Byakuya. At this point, we know that Hawaito is just dying to make an appearance, and 1 black Getsuga and the fight is over. So overall, Ichigo should be victorious. If Orihime doesn't make it back in time, Yoroichi should also be able to heal Chie-in's injuries, or at the very least stabilize her, given that she's able to heal fatal injuries. And if a swarm of ants manage to escape the Japanese hunters and return to the cave, well, Yoroichi is called the Flash Master for a reason. Overall, Ichigo's team should be victorious, and more lives will be saved thanks to Orihime and Yoroichi. And finally, Kisuke Urahara should be able to find their location and open a portal. I should also add that Beru will join Sung Jin-Woo's army when he goes back in time with the Cup of Reincarnation. So conveniently, the plot is fixed. For more what-ifs and crossover videos like this one, be sure to like and subscribe. Cheers.